This second tutorial will cover more on getting help, a little bit more on if statements, naming, for statements, and of course some more vmesh. I also want to mention Notepad+. Notepad+ is used for basically viewing and creating code. If you want to work with it rather than work in Blender, you can do that. And to set the language, you just go to P, click Python, and it'll color the statements so that you can sort out what's going on better. I use it quite a lot because it's also got like a function where you can record actions and get things done really fast. So that's Notepad+. And what I'm going to do in this tutorial, after I get done with these few basics, I'm going to show you a way that I used Python in an art project that I did and how it saved me buku time. Alright, so the help function. Let's get rid of this. The help function is not quite as useful as the dir function. Basically you go help, parentheses, and then put in whatever you want help on. Help doesn't do that much for me. I don't think I've ever used anything from it. But dir is a different story. That gives you what I think to be possibly, I haven't really looked at it really close to determine whether it does this or not, but I think it gives you the exact same thing as putting a period at the end and hitting tab. It's just structured a little differently. Like this ends with vertex warp, that ends with vertex warp. So I think they're both identical as far as getting help. This one's probably a little faster with the tab. But if you want it arranged differently, then you can get it arranged differently. And then we're going to just show an if statement with a else statement following the if. Else is actually part of the if. Basically what happens when you run it is, we know x is 4 because we set it to 4. It says if x is equal to 5, then print these two statements. And you can put as many statements in between as you want as long as you indent them correctly. And then if it's not true, it actually then goes on and does this function. So what it's going to do is print out x is equal to 4. Now we're going to start getting into what I told you about as far as creating the artist stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to add a cube, and then we're going to get the name, and we're going to print out the name. So it's going to have a default name, and note that I put 20 here, and that's why it's off from the center. And it printed out the name of this that was set by the coding in Blender to cube. So what we're going to do now is we're going to reverse these two statements, and not actually reverse, but it's kind of similar. This statement is going to come first, and then we're going to set that name for it equal to box. And then just to prove that it printed out, we're going to take this statement, put it in the print statement, run it, and see what it prints out. So it prints out the name box. Okay, so now I want to get into merlons. This is the art project that I was talking about, and all of these right here are what are called merlons. As you notice, they are all over in this scene. They're right here, they're here, they're here, they're here. They go all the way around this, and they're here, down here, and up there. So can you imagine as an artist trying to deal with putting them all up and putting them equally spaced? Wouldn't be a whole lot of fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of a demo on this, only I'm going to do it a little differently. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this round rather than a square. So we're going to do our merlons in our round like it would be for a castle or something like that. And back to Blender. Oh yeah, I stole this from the web. I just did a search and found the function that I needed to set this rotational point at the origin. So then when this is rotated, it'll go this way rather than just rotating around and around in place. You'll see what I mean in a second here. Whoops, not there. Here. Alright, so it moved the pivot point. And now there are three things that I want to do. First, I want to take this cube and I want to duplicate it. Then I want to take that duplicate and rotate it a little bit. And then I want to repeat that duplication and rotation for a full circle. First thing I need to find the function for duplicating. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go... I could go Shift D, which would create a separate object. But if I go alternate D, then click into the area so that it has created the, it won't be it'll be a duplication of it. It'll be an instance, I should say. So if you had this square cube textured before you duplicated the instance that you duplicated, I guess I'll say the duplicated part, would have the same texture. Now we're going to go R, Z. And we're going to rotate this. Try to get it so that it's about right. It's a little bit overlapped. I guess that's okay. And then we're going to do another Alt D. Click. And then raise this one up and rotate Z. So we got a small size merlon. And let's see, before I do that, let's find this. Here's our duplicate function that we need. And go back here, paste it in here. Whoops, wrong button. And then I don't want to use that full statement, so I'm going to do something a little funny here. I'm going to use my boundary markers in this application, which is Study Maestro. This is an application I have on the web. It's in beta right now. You can download it if you're interested in it. You can find all kinds of information on it on the website. And what I'm doing is I'm coloring the brackets. That's what I'm doing. Coloring the parentheses and the brackets. Then close this up, and what I want to do is I want to try to cut this down so it's not such a big mess. A lot of the stuff in most of these functions that you find will have a lot of stuff that's it's like a default. So we have to look at these parentheses though. For example, right here, we can take that out because it's got matching parentheses. We can take this out because it has matching parentheses. We should be able to get away with probably, I think I'll stop here. You could probably try going a little further, maybe. Yeah, let's try it. Let's try going to here. Worst thing that can happen is it won't work. Now notice that I kept this here because those are the closing. We need a closing for this one, and we need a closing for this one. Delete that out. And when we're doing our duplication, we're not relocating anything. We're just duplicating. That's it. Alright, and then I'm going to take that down here. Let's make sure it's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Paste it in. and then enter 1, 2, 3, 4, because we're going to put another statement here. And now I need the rotate statement. Here we are. And let's take these out. Delete this out. Paste this in. We probably don't have to mess with this too much. Yeah, let's do it anyway for the fun of it. Replace all. Close it. And get rid of the markers. Alright, so going back. Parenthesis, we can take that out. I'd say we can probably get away with taking all this out. And take this, put it back down here in our for statement, which I'm going to explain in a second. And then I want to take rotate, put it in here for a rotate amount. Whoops. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to explain this for statement. What it does is it takes a range of numbers and you put in the range. The range can be like 1 to 4. The way that you do that is you put 1, 4, or you can just put in a number like I did here. And what it'll do is for the first time it will take this statement and run it with x equal to 0. And for the next time, x will equal 1, and it'll print out 1. And it'll do that all the way up to 21, not 22, up to 21. And that's 22 iterations because you're including 0. So let's run it and I'll show you what it does here. As you can see, this printed out. The way I'm doing this is I'm holding down Control and scrolling the mouse wheel to get it bigger. It printed out 0, 1, 2, etc. all the way up to 21. As I said, it doesn't go to 22, it goes to 21. And this right here, that just sets x equal to a string rather than a number. And then this creates a space after the number that's printed, and it prevents it from doing a carriage return. Alright, so now back to our merlons problem. Let's go ahead and select these. And now we're going to need to define this, so I'm going to have to put this in the function. Alright, so you can see what it did. It made everything spaced correctly, and it placed them in a circle. And that's how I would do that. I think one of the things I want to cover. I was going to do that select all, but there's something that I don't remember that you have to do in order for it to actually show that it's selecting all. It's like activate or something like that. But I'm not going to go over that. But what I am going to do, I'm going to show you. Sometimes you might want to create an object, but your cursor is way over here and you want to create it at the origin. So you'll want to set the cursor back to the origin and watch what it does when I run this line of code. So that's how you can set the cursor back to the origin. That's a common function that you'll probably want to hold on to. But as I usually do with the tutorials, I'm going to be including these notes with the tutorials, so you can download them with the code. Alright, so for the next tutorial I'm going to be going into how to pull up demo scripts, analyzing code. We'll be analyzing that function that I used earlier. Because when somebody else writes a function, you may not actually understand exactly what it's all about, and there's easy ways to analyze functions like that. In fact, that's one of the reasons why the console is there. It gives you a way that you can analyze the functions. So that does it for this second tutorial. Appreciate you viewing it, and thanks a lot.